Manufacturing Crisis: How the Guardian's Misleading Headlines Undermine National Progress, an editorial analysis by Professor Wall Street. The Trinidad Guardian's August 18th, 2025 article titled, Refinery Restart Committee Reports Little Progress on Plan represents another shameful example of how Trinidad and Tobago's fourth estate has abandoned journalistic integrity in favor of sensationalized headlines designed to create public anxiety rather than inform citizens. This misleading piece demonstrates the Guardian's continued role as a propaganda vehicle rather than a credible news source. The Guardian's decision to transform a simple two-word response, "not yet," into a dramatic narrative about little progress reveals the extent to which certain media outlets have become willing participants in manufacturing crises where none exist. This represents not journalism, but editorial manipulation disguised as news reporting. Here are 10 reasons why this article represents misleading and disingenuous journalism. 1. Grossly misleading headline construction. The Guardian's headline, Refinery Restart Committee Reports Little Progress on Plan, fundamentally misrepresents the actual content. Kevin Ramnarine never reported little progress. He simply responded "not yet" to a question about timing. The Guardian manufactured the little progress narrative entirely from their own interpretation, presenting opinion as fact in their headline. This represents basic journalistic dishonesty. 2. Complete lack of context about committee timelines. The article deliberately omits crucial context that the committee was given a 4-month timeline and has been operating for barely over 1 month. Any reasonable analysis would note that expecting comprehensive reports after 25% of the allocated time represents unrealistic expectations. The Guardian's failure to provide this temporal context reveals deliberate editorial manipulation. 3. Transformation of normal process into crisis narrative. The Guardian takes a routine administrative response during the early stages of a complex project and presents it as evidence of failure or stagnation. This represents the kind of sensationalized reporting that prioritizes dramatic narratives over factual analysis, creating public anxiety about normal governmental processes. 4. Failure to acknowledge project complexity. Restarting a major refinery involves intricate technical, financial, legal, and environmental considerations that require extensive analysis. The Guardian's treatment suggests they expect instant solutions to complex industrial challenges, revealing either ignorance about petroleum industry realities or willful misrepresentation of reasonable timelines. 5. Deliberate omission of government achievements context. The article completely ignores the broader energy sector progress highlighted in recent government communications, including new exploration agreements, increased oil output, and strategic partnerships. This selective reporting ensures readers remain unaware of positive developments while amplifying manufactured concerns. 6. Misuse of historical information to create false urgency. The Guardian includes extensive background about the refinery's closure and previous failed attempts without explaining how this history relates to current committee work. This information serves only to create a sense of failure and frustration rather than inform readers about actual progress or challenges. 7. Complete absence of expert analysis or alternative perspectives. Professional journalism would include expert commentary on typical timelines for such committee work or analysis from industry specialists about reasonable expectations. The Guardian's failure to provide context from knowledgeable sources reveals their preference for sensationalism over informed reporting. 8. Manufactured controversy from routine administrative communication. The article treats a brief, appropriate response from a committee chair as newsworthy controversy. Ramna Rines not yet represents normal communication during ongoing work, not evidence of problems or failures. The Guardian's decision to build an entire negative narrative around this routine exchange reveals editorial bias. 9. Failure to acknowledge the democratic process. The article mentions that Owando's involvement was put on hold after the election, without acknowledging that new governments routinely review major contracts and appointments. This represents normal democratic governance, not problematic delay, yet the Guardian presents it as evidence of dysfunction. 10. Pattern of predetermined negative narrative. This article fits a clear pattern of Guardian reporting that approaches UNC government activities with predetermined negative assumptions. Rather than evaluating progress objectively, the Guardian consistently seeks angles that support criticism regardless of actual facts or reasonable expectation. The real story the Guardian refuses to tell. What the Guardian deliberately obscured is that establishing a comprehensive refinery restart strategy requires extensive technical analysis, financial modeling, environmental assessment, and stakeholder consultation. Industry experts understand that such work cannot be rushed without risking expensive mistakes. The committee, led by experienced former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine, is conducting the kind of thorough preparation that previous failed attempts lacked. The Guardian's demand for instant results reflects the same rushed decision-making that contributed to past failures in this sector. A responsible media outlet would recognize that complex industrial projects require proper planning phases. The Guardian's impatience with thorough preparation reveals either ignorance about industrial development or deliberate misrepresentation designed to create political controversy. The Fourth Estate's responsibility crisis. The Guardian's approach represents a broader crisis in Trinidad and Tobago's media landscape, where certain outlets have abandoned their watchdog role in favor of becoming partisan political actors. Rather than informing citizens objectively, these outlets manipulate information to support predetermined political narratives. This transformation of journalism into political activism undermines democratic discourse by denying citizens the balanced information needed to evaluate government performance. When media outlets consistently misrepresent routine government activities as failures or crises, they contribute to political polarization rather than informed debate. The Guardian's pattern of misleading headlines, selective reporting, and manufactured controversies suggests an editorial agenda that prioritizes political manipulation over journalistic integrity. This approach deserves readers who depend on accurate information to participate meaningfully in democratic processes. The cost of media manipulation. The Guardian's irresponsible reporting creates several harmful effects on national discourse. First, it generates public anxiety about normal governmental processes, contributing to unnecessary political tension. Second, it establishes unrealistic expectations about complex projects, setting up future disappointment regardless of actual progress. Most importantly, it undermines public trust in both media and government institutions by creating an atmosphere of permanent crisis and failure. When citizens cannot distinguish between legitimate concerns and manufactured controversies, democratic accountability suffers. The Guardian's approach also discourages thorough government planning by creating political pressure for instant results over careful preparation. This dynamic contributed to past policy failures and continues to undermine effective governance. A call for journalistic integrity. Trinidad and Tobago deserves better from its media institutions. The country's democratic health depends on news outlets that prioritize accuracy over agenda, context over sensationalism, and public service over political manipulation. The Guardian's transformation of a routine administrative response into a crisis narrative represents exactly the kind of irresponsible journalism that weakens democratic discourse. Citizens have a right to expect reporting that informs rather than misleads, that provides context rather than manufactured drama. Until outlets like The Guardian return to basic journalistic principles, accurate headlines, balanced reporting, appropriate context, and respect for reader intelligence, citizens must remain vigilant about distinguishing between actual news and political propaganda disguised as journalism. In conclusion, The Guardian's Refinery Restart Committee article perfectly illustrates how media bias operates through selective emphasis, misleading headlines, and manufactured narratives. By transforming Kevin Ramnaraine's simple "not yet" into evidence of little progress, The Guardian revealed its commitment to political agenda over journalistic accuracy. This pattern of misleading reporting undermines both media credibility and democratic discourse. Trinidad and Tobago's citizens deserve journalism that respects their intelligence, provides accurate information, and contributes constructively to public debate rather than manufacturing crises for political purposes. The Guardian's continued role as a propaganda vehicle rather than a credible news source represents a threat to informed democratic participation. Until accountability returns to Trinidad and Tobago's media landscape, citizens must demand better from outlets that claim to serve the public interest while actually serving partisan political agendas. The Fourth Estate has a responsibility to inform, not misinform. The Guardian's failure to meet this basic standard makes it part of the problem rather than part of the solution in Trinidad and Tobago's democratic development.